Mexican Gunslinger. Today we're gonna discuss you know, a more mellow topic for all of you guys. Though, be ready for war. Just be ready for war. That's my first message I'm gonna tell you. But besides all that, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a lot of sightings of meteors and asteroids and comets or whatever you want to call it in the sky. Ohio and Texas has been seeing so many of them. I've seen these ones for myself. What's up, Alpha Armor? What's up, man? What's up? And anyways, there's been a lot of discussion about this UFO phenomena stuff that's gonna happen or is happening right now as we speak. The government has already enclosed themselves in saying that these guys are UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenons, and you know, first, and yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the government before all this stuff was happening, they were saying that UFOs aren't real, they don't exist, they're just a hoax, they're conspiracy theory. But then years later down the road, they're like, no, it's real, guys. They're real. They're out there. Who knows? They can be from different planets and stars, and that's the thing we're gonna talk about here on discussion. Is that people believe that we can leave outer space. People think that we, you know, people believe that we're gonna be going to outer space and going to different planets and stars and different galaxies and going to Mars, and it's flat. Oh, woo! Freaking Alpha Armor. Oh, but yeah, guys, people believe that we're gonna go to different, galaxies and stars. You know, I used to be a very believer in NASA. I used to believe all the bull crap, that NASA was out there, trying to save the world and find different planets for us to inhabit and all this other nonsense that they came up with. It was so believable, man. And they would tell you, oh yeah, SpaceX, with Elon Musk, we're going to Mars, we're gonna go to Mars, when they can just simply just go to the moon, which is super super closer than Mars, but they want to go like 2 planets down and do, man, it's all nonsense, bro. It's just crazy nonsense. The things that these people tell us is just and oblivious of lies. We don't, people be saying, oh, the defending NASA to the teeth, almost, pulling a freaking muscle over here saying, NASA is right, we're the ones, they're the ones that are telling us everything. Look at the telescopes and look at all that. We can see all these things, but they're like, we never left Earth to begin with to go to the moon. It was all something that we were fighting, against other countries, man. Like, we're going to be the first ones to go there and here. And that's why the U.S. always wants to be the first ones on everything, bro. It's just the way it is. The United States has always been, the number one contender for shutting down and censoring people and even offing people based on the truth. And that's the crazy part, is that majority of the people in the population here in the United States, they don't want to know the truth. They just don't. They rather believe the set of lies that the government has in place on them, because this is all an agenda, ladies and gentlemen, to get us away from the agenda that's happening right now as we speak. There's so many people that are aligned with this agenda. So many people. And, you can argue all day long with these people, but in the end, you're gonna look like a Dumbo. They're gonna trying to make us look like Dumbo because everyone else is aligned with the lie. So only the few people that understand the truth and what's happening about the truth. These military exercises, the military, documents, that have been saying that the Earth is a flat plane. And people and these military documents have been saying it for hundreds of years, if not longer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. Once we found the Bible, man, we kind of went away from the whole NASA stuff. Yeah, Alpha Armor. Yeah, we all went through all this situation. Like I wanted to leave Earth because I felt like Earth was just full of dumbos. I just like I just want to leave Earth and just go somewhere else. When in reality we can't. Because once you start understanding the Bible and start understanding the Word of God, it tells, it's crazy because if people were to open the Bible and read Genesis, it'll tell you right then and there what the shape of the earth is. It's not round. We are surrounded waters above waters, so the ocean's on the ground, there's waters underneath, we are surrounded by waters, and sometimes I tell myself, like whatever these beings are coming from space, whatever these things are coming from the waters, because there is such thing as a marine kingdom, which is part of the satanic kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. That's why there's marine spirits, and that's why there's all these entities that literally are disguising themselves as angels of light. A lot of people don't understand spiritual warfare at a mass scale. If you guys need to understand one thing, it's that NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. And of course, the logo looks like a serpent's tongue. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a giant hoax of a lie that they have been in place. And a lot of people don't want to comprehend the truth because they won't even open the Bible and read it for themselves to be like, hey, it says that there's waters above our waters. Like, what the heck? Because he separated the waters with waters. Like, of course, we have a firmament, ladies and gentlemen, that's made out of what? Water, Yes, boo, yes. A lot of pilots will even come to the conclusion, if you ask them politely, what shape is the earth, they will tell you straight up. And these pilots are trained pilots. They've been doing this for years, ladies and gentlemen, for years. So if anyone's going to be like, I've been studying NASA for many decades, and this pilot that's been flying for 20 years, that has been seeing the air in the sky more longer than these individuals that have been, stuck on Earth forever, that never fly an airplane in their life, they be like, what? How is it flat? It's round. Like, how does it maneuver? There has been a whole thing that's been in place in this area of expertise when it comes to these things, just like, Darwin with the whole species stuff and evolution and all these other things that the government has been just facading and lying about time and time immemorial. We can't even conclude the things that they say are truth anymore because we cannot. We have to figure out the truth for ourselves nowadays, and the only way we can be set free from all these lies and go to the truth is through Jesus Christ. Some people won't believe you. They'll just be like, dude, you're a religious nut job. You read the Bible too much. But in reality, these people don't read it enough. They haven't even read it in the first place. There's a lot of people in this world that's never opened the Bible in their life, and that is a scary situation because all these people want to go and discover this new information. They want to get more information from the news, the TV, from historians, from experts, but they never go on and research these things for themselves because they have been indoctrinated with this mentality of following experts, and these experts will end up, just telling you a plethora of lies. There's been even astronauts that came in front of television, in front of thousands of people, saying that they never went to the moon, that they never went to outer space, that it was all fake. And these people who say the moon landing is real, they'll be like, no, they misinterpreted it when they just clearly said, bro, they never went to the moon. Like the same people that went to the moon saying that they never went to the moon. So like, what the heck, you know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of things, you know. Yeah, Bonnie, you know, a lot of, I'm telling you, man, there's so many things that are happening in these times, you know. They want to cover up the Bible. They want to lay it down as they know the truth. They don't want you to read the Bible. That's why there's so many distractions to lead you away from the Bible. Because once you understand the Bible, you understand that space is fake and gay. You know, I'm just putting it out there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And yeah, Bobo, yeah. That NASA in Hebrew means to deceive, you know. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen. And now that we're seeing a plethora of UFO sightings, asteroids, meteors falling from the sky, it could only mean one thing, you know. And a lot of people are going to speculate, you know. I'm going to give my guesses on what it is. One, it's fallen entities. Two, we're being attacked secretly by missiles, but you know, the so-called government are taking them down before they hit Earth here in the United States. Or three, supposedly they say it's SpaceX, which I call completely BS on that. Or four, we're starting to see the end of times. Or five, Project Bluebeam. I know. There's a lot of conspiracy things out there. You know, it's crazy, man. Yeah, Bonnie, space was made by the Hollywood elites, man. They were made by the Hollywood elites. Because of course they would place it in space. Of course, when the moon landing, you know, when the ship was there, somehow there was a cameraman on the moon already to record it, which is, I'm telling you, this is complete BS. Like, this stuff is complete BS. And people are gonna... Yeah, I'm telling you, man. And there's going to be a lot of people in the comment section, you know. Some will tell you that, you know, we as followers of Christ, we already know what's being played right now, you know what I'm saying? But there's going to be probably people who join in the live for newcomers who haven't, you know, seen these videos or haven't read the Bible enough. They're gonna be like, these guys are crazy, what the heck, these are flat earthers. When in my opinion, I believe that the earth is a different shape. You know, I don't believe that it's completely flat, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's kind of like a cup, like, you know, because you know, when you put water in a cup, it holds the water in there. But if you get like a marble and put water in it, it's not going to hold the water, man. And of course, it's going to be some kind of dome, the firmament made out of waters. You know what I'm saying? So whatever is falling from the firmament, maybe it might be pieces of the firmament falling. Who knows? But I'm telling you, the government hides a majority of these things because they don't want the population of this world to know the truth, ladies and gentlemen. They keep everything to themselves. This has been decades upon decades of lies, you know. These wars are based on lies, you know. Majority of the things that we get are based on lies, and it's just sad because, you know, we're led astray when Jesus of Christ, you know, he's the one that told us to stay on that narrow path, and he said that the truth will set you free, and he's the truth and the way, you know, and no one can go through him, you know, to talk to the Father. You know, you can't just, you know, say, oh, I'm gonna try to pray to God, when you have to go through Jesus in order for you to do that, you know. And that's the thing that people don't discuss a lot. Oh, Bonnie, you know, hey, you're right. You know, our eyes are shaped kind of weird too. You know, it's kind of crazy that our eyes, you know, we see things. In my whole life, like I said, you know, I used to be scared of space. You know, I used to always think like, oh man, like, you know, we look up in the sky and all you see is nothing. That used to always scare the crap out of me. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys were ever afraid of that, because, you know, there was times where I was just so afraid of space in general. You know, I would see a flat, you know, when I was driving through Texas, it was extremely flat, and then I saw the sky and I'll just start panicking. I'm like, whoa, like, dude, the sky, like half of it, like my visions, half of it is like the ground and the rest is just nothingness, an abyss of nothingness, and that always scared the crap out of me. And I'm just like, man, like, you know. Thank you, brother. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you, man. God bless you. God bless you, bro. But yeah, it's just a very scary thought that I've always had. But over time, I just started praying. I just started reading the Bible, and then when I realized that we weren't in a spinning ball flying light years away and millions of miles, in the cosmos, surrounded by an abyss of plethora of stars and other galaxies. It's just once you get that out of your shoulders, you're just like, oh, I can breathe, bro, because I'm surrounded by a firmament. Like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying right here. And then, and always having that thought where, what if the world just goes upside down, and I fall to the abyss, which is the sky, There's nothing there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys ever have these thoughts, but man, everything we've been told is a lie. At one point NASA said, gravity is going to stop for about 1 second or so, and it's going to cause massive destruction. And like, come on, bro. If gravity were necessarily real, keeping me down compared to a baby, we are different weights. You know what I'm saying? How would gravity depict a 250-pound man to like a 12-ounce baby or something? You know what I mean? So it's just sometimes some of these things don't make sense at all, man. And a lot of people who are seeing these meteors in the sky, they're catching them on their phones, and back in the day when we didn't have these phones, people would freak out. Nobody is freaking out in today's world. We just look at it and be like, oh, it's just another meteor, bro. Oh, it's probably SpaceX, bro. It's just another conduction made by NASA, bro. Like, it's just another experiment, bro. And it's just no one freaks out in today's world. Nobody. Like, if I was a kid and I saw a freaking asteroid in the sky, or a comet, or whatever you want to call it, a meteor, I would be freaking out. I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's gonna come to Earth. We're all gonna die, all that stuff. But it's normalized, with Hollywood movies and all these, predictive programming and all this BS that's been happening everywhere. We're so desensitized to all these things, ladies and gentlemen. Like, we cannot nowadays, we look up in the sky and be like, oh, just another comet, just another meteor. Be like, all right, man, it's cool, and we just don't care about it no more. Yeah. Dang. Yeah, boo, man. Yeah. And too many people, man, like I said, they're normies. Like, a lot of these people are normies people. And, I seen a video of normies looking at the comet in the sky, and they're like, it's SpaceX, bro. It's SpaceX. And it's just like, how do you know it's SpaceX? Like, how would you know? Like, you wouldn't know. You're just second guessing. Like, and they always go for the easiest thing that doesn't make them fear. And that's the problem with a lot of these normies. They don't ask so many questions. They just go along with the categories that are normal, the categories that make sense. They never look outside the box, because we, as the people that are looking for the truth and followers of Jesus Christ, we always look outside the box, because everything that the government has been telling us is a freaking lie. They say, oh, the sky is actually green. You look up, it's blue, and you're like, what the heck is these people doing? And then they tell you, oh yeah, the Olympics, that's not a pentagram, bro. You're fine. Like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Your eyes are lying to you, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's just sad that we live in that world where, we get censored continuously over and over and over again when we're trying to spill the truth. YouTube, will start taking down your videos if you put some real truth information out there that needs to be, shown or heard of. Or they'll just, simply just shadow ban you, where, I have approximately 7,000 subscribers in my YouTube channel and I only get like 100 views. Like, it's just crazy. I'm just like, what the heck? Like, shouldn't like 7,000 of my subscribers see my video and be like, hey, look, you put a new video up, so I should have at least like 7,000 views? But it's just, the crazy part is that YouTube doesn't put out my videos. YouTube doesn't put up any of these other truthers videos, because, I don't get notified sometimes from those videos, and I'm just be like, what the heck? Like, this is a new video. Why didn't I get notified? I got the notification bell. But, YouTube plays a lot of games. But besides all that, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the UFO phenomenon that's been happening. Texas has been getting them a lot. Ohio has been getting them a lot. And, all I can tell you right now, when it comes to UFOs, extraterrestrials, and aliens, whatever you want to call it, they're demons, ladies and gentlemen. They are completely demons. They're demons. It can be it's either demons, or it's either, these government officials experimenting with, these aircrafts that we have never seen before, ready to pull something huge, something big. They've always been discussing, if you ever seen the Illuminati card game, they'd always discussed about, the final card, which is, the UFO invasion, that it's all going to be a giant lie. It's going to be a giant hoax. And a lot of people aren't ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. We're not ready for that. Just like we're not ready for a war, war against, the satanic kingdom and all this stuff. So many people are not ready for these things, because once these things start falling from the sky, men's hearts will fail from just the fear, the sight of these things, because they don't, like I said, not a lot of people read the Bible. Not a lot of people. So those people who haven't put the word, haven't read the word, or haven't put their faith in Jesus Christ, their hearts are gonna fail them, because they don't know the truth, ladies and gentlemen. It's a sad thing that we are coming to, man. It's a sad thing that we are coming to. But at the same time, all we can do is just be prepared for these things, ladies and gentlemen. All we can do is be prepared for them, At one point in time, when I was a youngster, I used to always be, amazed with UFOs and extraterrestrials. I used to always look them up, look up the old videos like the Phoenix Lights and all these other, UFO phenomenons that happen. I used to watch that movie, The Fourth Kind, with the whole thing that happened in Alaska with alien abduction and all this stuff. I used to be into all that stuff, But then I realized, once the truth sets you free, you realize that these aliens are nothing matter. They're just demonic entities. They're either interdimensional, or they're, been here the whole time. Just with like the days of Noah, they were breeding with the children of men, with the daughters of men, and they were having, these crazy abominations that, the fallen angels were, making. They created the Nephilim, which is the giants. They were creating hybrid species, that talks about in the book of Enoch, and all these other things that we have been told, that Anunnaki, all that stuff, plays a big role with what's going on right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, so many people, they don't understand these things. They just don't. Like I said, they live their normal day lives like it's no big deal. They don't study this. They're working their 9-to-5 jobs. They are, going to the websites, watching explicit content. They're over there, stuck watching their YouTube shorts, some funny videos. They're over there, going to school, going to college, dealing with that. They have no time whatsoever to actually look up the truth. They have no time whatsoever to read the Bible. So when these alien beings and these creatures come to, here, when they finally make themselves present to the whole world, saying, we're here, we're not hiding it anymore. It's gonna be a very bad day for a lot of people who don't understand what is being played, because a lot of these people are gonna think that these things are gonna be nice, that they're gonna save them, like it's gonna be their saviors, their messiahs, and they're gonna believe it all, even though these things are gonna look freakish, or they might even look like us, like angels disguised like light. You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna end up, believing them. They're gonna end up going like, you know what? I don't believe this crazy human being that reads his Bible. It's obsolete, because these beings are coming to save me. They're gonna come and rescue me from all the BS that's been happening, and they're gonna believe the plethora of lies that are gonna come to this world, to our earth. And so many people are going to be lost in this, man. So many people are going to be lost in it. Like the movie V, the show V, if you watch the old one or the new one, regardless, they always say, oh, they came from light years away and all this other stuff. But in reality, these things have been here for years, ladies and gentlemen. They have been here for years. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just all like the whole Egyptian stuff and the hieroglyphics, seeing these giant creatures with bird heads and all this stuff. It's just insane, We don't know how these beings are going to look like, but the government hides everything. And I'm pretty sure the government has been orchestrating this for a pretty long time, ever since Ronald Reagan was discussing, the New World Order, and discussing, that we're gonna need some kind of, outworld, enemy so we can all unite all the countries together, so we can fight whatever is coming through. This has been a discussion that's been going on forever, and all we can do is just, think about this discussion and be like, okay, if these things are gonna come to place, if these things are gonna happen, what is our role in the table? What's in it for us? What's going to happen to us? Well, that's the thing. What are they going to do with the whole alien invasion? Okay, like that's the thing. Like, oh yeah, we're seeing these creatures come from, whatever, the sky or whatever. We're seeing all these UFO spaceships, are they gonna come here in peace, or they're just gonna straight up blow up everybody and destroy everything and be like, well, let's just destroy the earthlings? That's the question that I'm trying to discuss with you guys, because it's just a big mass deception with this whole UFO phenomenon, that are they gonna come in peace, or are they gonna destroy everybody? Are they going to hunt down everybody like freaking ravenous dogs that they are? And, we're going to be seeing this kind of technology that we have never experienced in our lives, that the government has been hiding for a plethora of years. Because the government always has these experimental devices that they have created underground that we have no idea what they are, because they're like 50 to 60 years ahead of us. And, whatever they give to the public is whatever they've already had and already created. What the things that the government has in their hands are tremendously years ahead of what we have right now. I'm pretty sure they're already playing, Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm pretty sure they already, have the PlayStation 7 and already playing it. I'm pretty sure they have the 2030, whatever car you're talking about, whatever, I'm pretty sure they have freaking weapons that can shoot like hyper freaking projectiles at magnetic speeds without using a percussion. And, they have things that we don't necessarily know about. I'm telling you. Trump started the Space Force. What's up, Tig? What's up? Yeah, Alpha Armor. Yeah, we shall not have fear. We shall not have fear. But I'm talking about the people that don't read the Bible. Imagine the fear they're gonna have. Yeah. What's up, brother Patrick? What's up? But yeah, it's just gonna be a giant freaking hoax, man. And I know the government's going to be part of it. I know they are, ladies and gentlemen, because they always lie to us continuously, spraying the skies with this, well, with all these chemtrails, barium and aluminum and, and these reptilian so-called creatures, that hide their voices and hide their faces. You can see their eyes having slits in them, and you can hear news reporters hissing when they bring up the name of Jesus Christ. Like, it's just a crazy thing to think about. We don't know what these things are capable of doing, but all I know this is these beings are going to be demonic. These things are not going to be human. These things are going to come from the satanic kingdom, and these things are not going to be our friends. They're going to belong with the great old ones, just like with AI. People have been using AI for so long, because like I said, nothing's new under the sun. AI has been created. If you've seen these old school pictures, like the picture of Mona Lisa, they said that it was the painting was just so drawn out so well that it seemed like lasers are the ones that created it. Who knows, ladies and gentlemen? Who knows what kind of stuff that they've been hiding for us from years, And we cannot like always speculate that, oh, it's just a crazy painter that did this. We can't speculate that, oh, there's no such thing as, the government saying that they're the ones causing these alien things. Yo, what's up, man? Yeah, man, we were always space nerds, brother. We were always space nerds, Tony. We were always with the whole NASA crowd. I know there's some of you people that you guys would probably be like, nah, I was never with the NASA crowd because I was always doing something else, but majority of us who wanted to believe space was real and wanted to believe that, we were not the only ones here, which I believe we're not the only ones here, but we cannot leave Earth. Whatever these beings are already on this earth already. We can discuss about giants, mermaids, fairies, gnomes, these crazy things. At one point in time when I was in Oregon, me and my wife went up to the mountains and we were like trying to discuss a whole plan on how to evacuate the city when something happened. We ended up leaving out of the city and we went to this mountaintop, and we were just chilling right there. We were just going to spend the night there, but it was cold. It was snowy and cold, and it was extremely dark, and we shined our lights through the darkness, with our car, and we're like, because I was like, I'm seeing things, like there's something right there watching us, And Miss Gunslinger was like, dude, you're going crazy. Like, there's nothing there. And then, I shined my light. And then I'm like, don't you see that? There's like 3 things standing right in front of our car, and the light was shining. They were kind of reminded me of the shadow people kind of thing, And I'm like, oh, heck no. And then I told Miss Gunslinger, let's get out of here, man. I don't want to be here. I think it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, man. It was a pretty freaking gnarly freaking situation that we were in. But I'm telling you, there's some things in this world that we cannot necessarily, comprehend, when it comes to the spiritual realm of these things, especially with like Bigfoot. We don't understand Bigfoot at all. There's only been one footage of Bigfoot that's been completely clear, kind of clear. But we don't understand these things. We just don't, just like the whole mermaid thing. Back in the day, YouTube's videos, you can find videos of mermaids that are in the water, in the sea. There was actual footage of these things. And out of nowhere, they just disappeared. You look up mermaid, it's always BS videos of chicks trying to be mermaids, or Disney mermaids. You never see the real freaking phenomena of a mermaid, and these things are evil. They're marine spirits, and that's why there's so many people like coming to the United States, during the whole pilgrim, era, where they were trying to, make, civilize the United States of America. We don't know what kind of things they were seeing when they were crossing the seas, because we don't do that anymore. Like, what do you hear people be like, oh, let's get on a ship and have a voyage and go through the ocean instead of, flying an airplane, because everyone's just flying an airplane, flies over everything, so you don't get to see anything, and in today's world, when you go to state, people just, I'd rather fly an airplane and just skip everything. I drive through majority of states. I drove from Oregon all the way to Tennessee, and I drove through a plethora of states: Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma, so on and so on. And people don't see these things. They don't go and see these states for what they are. The terrains change dramatically, and sometimes I feel like the terrains are controlled. Like, they are controlled. They're controlled environments. Oh, you go to the desert here, it's a lot hotter, but you go a little bit north up and it's snowy. Bro, it doesn't make sense sometimes when you're just like, oh, there's a forest here, but when you go here, it's just, nothing but plains. It's kind of weird sometimes when you look at the earth the way it is, and you look at how constructed and orchestrated this is. It makes you feel like, we're kind of in a matrix system, which is the demonic kingdom of Satan. That's what we are, because it's all controlled, ladies and gentlemen. Everything that we have been told is a lie. Everything, from school and going on, moving forward, ever since we were born, we've been told is lies. And then those are the normie people who understand the truth, who finally understand the truth. They're going to have to rewire their brains. They're going to have to rewire their whole entire lives to understand that what they've been told is a lie. And so many people are lost in this world. I feel sorry for some of these people who have barely waken up, from seeing this giant delusion that Satan has cast upon them. But even God has cast a strong delusion on these people, because they don't want to know the truth. They don't want to take in the truth. So God leaves them to be in a strong delusion. And some of these people, you can tell them the truth every day, 100% all the time, and they won't listen to you. They'll think you're crazy. They will tell you that you are the crazy one. That's the most insane thing ever, because it's like, wow, you don't see, look at that forest, bro. There's hella trees, and they're gonna be like, I don't see nothing. All I see is plants. All I see is grass. You can't see the trees? What trees? I don't see the trees. They're right in front of you. I'm telling you, it's like that. It's like that. And then you can be telling these people a plethora of truths, and they won't take it in. They won't, because they'll continue believing the lie, because they'll think that you're lying to them, because everything they've been told they think is the truth, when in reality it's all a lie. Dang. That's why the UFO phenomena, it's so interesting sometimes, because it's like the government has been telling us for years that UFOs don't exist, that it's a hoax, that it's a lie, that it's Hollywood fantasy. Oh, but now UAPs are everywhere. Freaking Barack Obama over here being like, yeah, UFOs and alien extraterrestrials are real, and Donald Trump's being like, oh, he gave away classified information. He wasn't supposed to do that, because he always wants to be the one to do everything. And I'm telling you guys, it's just insanity. The times we're living in, there's gonna be a day where we are gonna have to be ready for whatever comes to us, whatever battles, whatever temptations comes from Satan. We're gonna have to battle these things, because of course when the UFOs start coming, they're gonna tell us a plethora of lies, mixing with a little bit of truth, and it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with that. Either you're going to believe this CIA operation when it comes to the government, Mossad, and all of these secret agencies, these 3-letter agencies that continue lying to us time and time immemorial. that we can't even speculate what's real and what's not anymore. That's why they gave us AI. Why would they give us AI at such a specific time when majority of the world is seeing these things in the sky, seeing all these other crazy phenomenons that's been happening, and you try to post it on YouTube, automatically someone in the comment section is going to be like, it's AI, bro, it's AI, it's not real, it's AI. You know, there's going to be so many agents online telling you that it's fake, when in reality it's probably the most absolute true video out there. You know, just like freaking Israel right now is hiding all the news coverage of them getting bombarded with missiles. You know, they're getting hit. Their Iron Dome ain't doing nothing. They're getting bombed right now by Iran really hard, man. You know, I've been seeing videos of them, you know, those new missiles that they've been dropping, those cluster bombs that they have. Iran has been destroying Israel so bad, but they're hiding it from you. They don't want to show you that because, you know, in Israel, it is illegal. Yes, you heard me right. It is illegal to capture video of them getting bombed by a different country. You heard me right. So you can't. So if anybody is posting up videos of Israel getting hit with these bombs, it is illegal for them to do that. You can get fined and go to jail or prison for 5 years just for videotaping truth, just for videotaping something that happened in their own country. You know, because they don't want to show the weakness of themselves. They don't want to show the fact that whatever bombs they're throwing at them is working. You know what I'm saying? It's creepy, but it's true. You know, and then the crazy part is that lately they have been getting hit. You know, and once the U.S. starts getting hit, it's going to be a whole different ballgame because our grid is exposed, man. Our grid is easily exposed. Like, anyone can just shut it off right then and there. All these power outages has been happening with all these services and all this stuff. These data centers, you know, money, you know, becoming, you know, more abundant, you know, to the point where, you know, you can make the money that you have, but then everything costs so much money and you're just like, what? You know, everything keeps going up in prices. Everything is more expensive, but that's part of the plan, you know. And of course they're going to come up with the digital dollar. You know, the mark of the beast is already being in place slowly but surely. And this whole UFO phenomena stuff is just going to make it worse. They, you know, I don't know. I think it was the UK that said, or what, I don't know who it was, but I know it was a news agency that said, you know, once a UFO invasion happens, there's going to be a collapse in the US dollar. There's going to be a collapse in all banking systems. That is what, why would they even say that? Like, why? Like, is it because it's gonna erupt everything that they have been doing? And of course they want to go to a digital system because the US doesn't want to pay all that debt that we owe to a plethora of countries. We owe like a bunch of countries trillions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we owe them millions, billions of dollars, you know. And other countries are in debt as well. They be owing to one another. So who's going to pay all that? You know, of course, they're going to want to orchestrate an alien invasion in order for them to not pay these wages, in order for them to not pay these debts. Because that's the way this government works. They like to steal from us. They like to make our lives even harder. Try going to the DMV. You're going to probably wait 3 hours, 4 hours just to, you know, get your address changed. You know, they make everything so dang hard in today's world. You know, trying to get an FFL for your firearm, you know, trying to go purchase one, you know, try doing that in California. You got to wait 10 days and all this other stuff. You can't order certain things because, you know, they need to have a serial number. You know, you can't go to this place because, you know, you're not allowed to carry in here. You know, it's just weird how restrictive everything is when it comes to these times. But I'm telling you, it's going to play a big part. This whole UFO thing is going to play a big part. And so many people are gonna be deceived. They're going to be deceived because they haven't read their Bible. They still believe that they're in a spinning globe. Million, like think about it, man. Doesn't that sound kind of crazy? We're in a giant ball. Somehow the water is in the ball. Try pouring water on top of a soccer ball or a basketball. Let me see if it holds the water. Probably won't. And they tell us that we're spinning millions and billions of miles around the solar system, with the sun being 333 million light years away or miles away or whatever the heck they say. It's just so freaking horrible. It's just garbage, It's just absolute garbage, and it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, And then, there, of course, there's going to be the people who'll be like, you're crazy. You're stupid. Why would you believe that we live in a plain, flat earth? When I clearly said myself, I don't know if it's flat. I'm pretty sure it's like a cup. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure it's kind of like a cup because it's got to hold all that water some way, somehow. And it's just crazy, man, the times we're living in. It's just crazy, the things that are happening everywhere around the world. The USA, with these weird meteors coming out of nowhere, and everyone's saying, no, it's SpaceX. There's nothing to fear. It's SpaceX. SpaceX is just launching something. Man, those times, man, when these UFOs land on this earth and they show themselves to the world, we're gonna see demons in the flesh, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, man, I ain't trying to put fear in anybody, Tony. I'm not trying to put fear in anything. I'm just letting you know, like, these are the things that you have to know. Like, go read the Bible. If you don't believe me, go look, go after Jesus Christ. I'm just a man. I've done my research and study when it comes to the Bible. I've done my research and study when it comes to the world, on how these companies, these corporations, these elite pedos, and all these people lie. Even Bill Gates with this whole vaccination routine, saying that he's going to put more vaccines out there to depopulate the world, and it just slipped out of people's minds. You know what I'm saying? And there's that, like, when the whole COOF thing, people were lining up in droves trying to get these stuff because they didn't want to lose their job. You know what I did? Because I knew my job was going to want it. They're going to wanted me to get it anyways, because they were already asking me if I had it anyways. And I'm like, nope. Yeah, well, guess what? I'm going to leave this job because I know you guys are going to want me to get it anyways. And I just denied everything, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm putting my 2 weeks notice, man. I'm not staying here, and I'm not complying with this bullshit. Sorry about my cursing. But, it's just a lot of people that been going through these times. A lot of people lost their jobs over a lie. People losing, these mom and pop shops losing their jobs over a lie. And this UFO thing is going to be the same thing. People are going to lose their livelihoods over this lie. People are going to lose their lives because of fear over this lie. It's just a scary situation, and so many people are not going to comprehend what's happening. Even me, it's going to be hard for me to comprehend what's going to happen next, because we don't know what these people do. We don't know how these people, correlate with one another. Why are these elite pedos building these giant bunkers, literally giant bunkers, so massive that it's like a skyscraper underneath the ground? they have different levels for different things, you know. Oh, this level we got a nice sandy beach, you know, where you can, you know, go and, you know, swim in a swimming pool that's a virtually like a beach. You know, oh, if you don't like that, you know, here you go. You can go scuba diving under there. You know, under on top of that, you know, there's a whole plantation right there for fruits and vegetables. Oh yeah, go more deeper and down into the underground. Oh yeah, there's a shooting range right there, so you can practice your marksmanship just in case there's a peasants trying to get into your bunker, which they probably have like freaking turrets, you know, guarding their underground bunkers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the things we're going to face, because once, you know, they're going to want to destroy this earth. They're going to want to destroy the creation of God. They're going to want to completely destroy it and start a great reset. You know, that's why it's called the Great Reset. You know, and a lot of people are just going to be like, oh, it's just a great reset. You know, they have to restart everything. No, they're going to have to destroy everything and start from scratch. That's what they're doing, because if you looked at those freaking stones, the Georgia Guidestones, you know, they want to keep Earth populated with only 500 million people. 500 million people. How many people need to lose their lives in order for them to get to that number to sustain planet Earth? In all different languages saying the same thing, you know. This is all going to be a big deception, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I tell you, you're going to have to be prepared for the worst case scenario of your life, because they're going to want to take you out. They're going to want to take you out the game, because they want to make room for whatever their little hearts desire, whatever hearts they have. Because I don't even think these people have hearts in the first place. All they have is for brains at that point. They're just tubes of meat at this point, ladies and gentlemen. These people have no souls. They have given it to Satan, you know. And that's why we tell you as truthers, you know, Jesus Christ was tempted by Satan in the mountain, and Jesus Christ kept telling them, you know, I'm not gonna fall for your stuff. You know, he didn't fall for any of his temptations. He just didn't. But Satan, you know, was tempting him so bad. He even said, you know, I'll give you all the kingdoms in the world if you just bow down to me. And there's gonna be the same kinds of temptations that are gonna be given to you. Oh, just take this mark, man. I'll give you a free housing, free health care. You'll never have to, you know, work a day in your life anymore. You know, we'll handle everything. We'll handle everything that you do, you know. These UFO beings, these demonic beings, they're going to do the same thing. Oh, just take this, you know, and it'll help you, and it'll make you a better human being. It'll make you think better, you know. Get the Neuralink. It'll make you more wiser, more smarter. You know, you'll be 10 times smarter than you already are. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, get the Neuralink for free. Come get it for free. And then you'll get this on top of that. Just like they did during the Koof shots. Oh, come get your free donut. Come get your free burger coupon. You know? Because so many people were just wanting to get these things, man. It's crazy how bad this world is deceived, man. It's sad, but it's true. That's why you have to look up to Jesus Christ, Yahshua HaMashiach. Look up to the Most High, ladies and gentlemen, because we are in some strange freaking times, ladies and gentlemen. We are in some strange times, and all we can do is pray to the Most High. Pray through Jesus Christ. Understand, we are under spiritual warfare at a mass scale. When you know that everything they have been telling us is a lie, you know this war has been going on for years. You know this war is barely starting in your end once you wake up from this deception. Because then you'll be seeing the front line of everything. Everywhere you look, you're going to see demons manifesting in people who have familiar spirits, who are not close to Yahshua HaMashiach, who are not close to Jesus Christ, who are not close to the Almighty God, our Heavenly Father. And these are the times we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. And when these UFO demonic beings make themselves here on earth in the flesh, we're going to have to be ready. Because these freaking elite pedals have been doing so much satanic rituals involving children to bring these entities to light, to bring them, to thin the veil as much as possible so these demonic entities can cross over it. You know, too many people are focused on the Epstein files, but they're not focusing on what they have done to those children and what their actions have caused to bring in these demonic entities from the spiritual realm. You know, and too many people are not aware with the black magic and sorcery that's been happening for years. They're not aware of that because they don't want to talk about it. They're too afraid to talk about it. But this UFO phenomenon is also going to involve black magic, witchcraft, sorcery, witches, sorcerers, and a plethora of these evil satanic beings who worship Satan. They're children of Satan, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be aware of this deception. You just have to. Yeah, Tony, man. It's just so many people are they're just asleep, man. They're asleep. I suggest you wake up. Look up to Jesus Christ and pray every day. Pray over your meals that you eat. Pray when you wake up. Pray when you go to sleep. Pray when you get home safe from work. Pray when you get to work, so these demonic people with, familiar spirits don't get you mad at work, so you can have a great time at work. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus. We have to get these things done, ladies and gentlemen, because time is ticking, and we don't know what these government agencies are going to do in the next few months that are coming up. People are saying that, if you watch Independence Day, when that giant UFO saucer blew up, the Bank of America building, or the U.S. Bank building. And it's been 25 years since the 9/11 anniversary. 25 years. 250th anniversary of the United States. I'm telling you, they're orchestrating something huge. I may be wrong about these things. Like I said, I ain't no dang prophet. I'm just a messenger, I'm just trying to get you prepared as much as possible with these crazy scenarios. Because this government is very unpredictable sometimes. There's been a lot of internet outages too, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what they're orchestrating. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what they're doing. People are losing their jobs every day now. People are becoming, having no time to think with what's happening. And I suggest you get ready. Because gas is just going up too. Look at Cuba right now. They're in darkness. They have no gas, no food, no electricity. That's what they want for the whole entire world, ladies and gentlemen. These elite pedos. These political parasites, aka politicians. They're not going to pay you to stay home, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to want you to be 6 feet in the ground. That is their goal. Because they want to make enough room as possible to deceive as many people as possible so they can inherit the world for themselves. So the wicked could inherit this world for themselves. Because we're becoming obsolete, ladies and gentlemen. And those UFOs, those entities are just going to make it way more easier for us humans to be called obsolete and to be disposable. Thank you guys for watching. I'm American Mexican Gunslinger. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. Like and share the video as much as possible. We're going to leave it off with a prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is thy kingdom, thy power, and thy glory forever. In Jesus' name I pray. Thank you and amen. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.